We are back. New York City Baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tyko, and it is a Yankee week, which means that I'm blessed. At least this Yankee week, I'm blessed. Wayne Unger from Weighted Donuts on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network is nice enough to give me some time. How you doing, my bud?
Doing pretty good, things a little stormy here in New York, but, that's okay. I'm inside.
It's the last winter for you.
In a perfect world, it's my last winter in New York.
Okay, let's hope it stays that way. All things on track. Retirement in June. Am I correct?
Not really retirement. I'll be retiring. I will, from my present job of the past 19 years, but I will move on to a new career as an Ubermeister. So
you will be the master of your fate and the captain of your soul, because you could do it anytime you want to do it. You can not do it anytime you don't want to do it, and that's a perfect little part-time gig for, or even a full-time gig for.
It's going to be a full-time gig, but I'm looking forward to the flexibility. I'm looking forward to being able to go to more ball games. Not think, oh man, if I want to make that game, I got to leave work early, and then there's the whole thing with the attendance and the early quits and all that other stuff. I have the flexibility to do that and other things, and just looking forward to it in general. So
nice.
But we don't want to bore everybody with my
well, sure we
lifestyle.
do. That's the name of my shows. That's what I do best in the world sometimes.
New York City baseball, past, present, and future. And future lifestyles.
Not on this show. You don't bore anybody on this show. The past is only 25, 26 world champions and championships. So I could live to be 170 years old as a Mets fan, and the Mets will never catch the Yankees under any circumstances. However, there's a certain charm to rooting for the Mets, and all my life I've been either a New York Giant fan or a New York Met fan, but a New York Yankee worshiper. I worshipped the dynasties. I grew up in the 50s and early 60s and worshipped the dynasties that they had even before Reggie Jackson. People don't remember that Reggie Jackson's era is the old-timers now, and that makes me feel somewhat old. But they've been great. I mean, how can one complain? So I like to follow them very closely and never root against them except when they're playing the Mets. That's the way I look at it.
And that's how I root for the Mets. As long as they're not playing the Yankees, I want them to win.
Right. It's almost a nice World Series when the Yankees are in it. You almost expect it. When I was a kid, I thought literally it was a birthright that the World Series was going to be played where I grew up in New York. I thought, a little kid every year. From 49 to 64, a New York team, not technically, because the Brooklyn Dodgers had moved to L.A., but you get the drift every year, over and over and over again. Brooklyn playing the Yankees most of the time. Giants played in the World Series in '51. It's just good days.
And 54.
Yeah.
The Giants played in '54 as well.
Yes, 51 in the World Series, 54 they won it all. The one year the Yankees weren't in it, they won more games that year than any other year under Casey Stengel, and maybe any other year in their history, and lost by a landslide to Cleveland, who just was incredibly dynamic that year. What a pitching staff.
Yeah.
Feller, Early Wynn, Bob Lemon, Norleski,
Herb Score.
Yeah, it was great times.
Yeah.
I want to get to a little game you and I were playing off the air. We went to the top 30 prospects, which in MLB on the Yankee website, their top 30 prospects. And because we like long shots, and it's more fun to root for them, we picked from 16 to 30, the last 15 picks. We each ended up drafting a pitcher and a position player. And we're going to have a little contest, see who does better. We're both not betting people, but we're just nice to see who wins. That's all. Just a little competition for us. And because you're the man who's giving me the time this evening, and I know you've been rushed today. You worked all day, came home late. You get to tell the folk who you picked and why you picked them.
Okay, I have a question now. Okay, yes. Now on the position players that we each picked, they're both at, let's say, the same level of development, but the pitches we picked are levels upon levels. They're
right.
Arguably 4 levels apart. So
yeah, well, we're just making the game up as we go along. So
okay,
we'll figure something. You're
okay.
right. Different levels, but different ages too. See, I feel if a guy's going to play an A ball, you can compare statistically how to a guy who is playing in AAA, even though they're both facing a different level of competition. They're older and have presumably, well, not necessarily true either on that one. Sometimes your best prospects are on a fast track, and AAA isn't a good example for fast track players anyway. But these guys are less than fast track players because they're rated, and that's very subjective as well, because there's one thing you can't measure, and that's a player's heart and how he's going to do year after year, how he's going to progress, what he's going to learn. But I took a guy who was scrappy as hell. You tell me about your position player first.
Mason Williams, not an unfamiliar player to Yankees fans, and he's actually has had an up and down minor league career. He has been sometimes he has looked like a star in their system, and other times he has had, he's had less than stellar years. There supposedly have been some discipline problems, or I should say hustle. Hustling. I think early on they say he was starting to believe his own press clippings, but he's come around. Unfortunately, and he's been given a chance the past couple of years, but he's gotten hurt. He didn't play in the majors this year, but last year he got a call up and he got hurt. and he can run. He's got a decent arm, good defense. He can hit. Not a lot of power. So the clock is running out for him, but I do believe he still got he still has a shot.
And he's got a little pedigree. He's the son of an NFL wide receiver, a retired guy, Derwin Williams, who I don't remember. I have to say, but sometimes the son of an athlete knows what it takes to be an athlete. Certainly, my first round pitcher has some pedigree in the sense that he's the son of a scout, and if I'm not mistaken, he's a scout that started out in Oakland. I remember his name, but he's with the Dodgers now as a scout, and the kid is Drew Finley, and David Finley is his dad, and Drew Finley is a hard-throwing right-hander who had a good strikeout to walk and a nice whip ratio, a nice whip at Staten Island. I mentioned that to you, and you said it's not a particular hitters league, and you've gone to some games there.
I live in Staten Island, so I've been to a number of Staten Island Yankee games. I've even been to see in Brooklyn to see the Brooklyn Cyclones, the Mets New York Penn League team, and it's just I've never really seen a lot of power there. It's just one of those levels, because don't forget the stadium still plays big. It's still a good sized stadium. And, these kids, some of them are just out of high school, or usually maybe they've had a year in an even lower level short season leagues. Some of the, international players are coming from
college pitches come out too.
Oh yes, you will have college pitchers there as well, and college hitters. I would say I tell you what, one guy who sticks in my mind as a power hitter who I saw with the Staten Island Yankees, we know has power, is Peter O'Brien, the guy who the Yankees traded for Martin Prado, and then Arizona actually designated him for assignment and recently traded him, I believe. I think he went to the Royals. I can't recall for who. But like I say, you just don't see.
Speaking of the Royals, man, tragedy in baseball.
Yes.
It's 2 years in a row that young, super ball players, pitchers get killed tragically, and
well, it's not. I mean, it's in a way. In a way, it's almost still the same year. I know Jose Fernandez, your Donnie Ventura, and remember a couple of years ago, the Cardinals lost their top prospect, Oscar Taveras, and also over the weekend,
the Olin thing with Cleveland. I think Olin was the player that ended up dead. Jesse Orozco was in it, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Bobby Ojeda. I thought it was Bobby Ojeda.
Bobby Ojeda, I'm sorry.
Yes, it was Olin and I think Tim Cruz as well. But that was years ago. But, people also on Sunday, a former Major League player, I think he was supposed to play in Japan or Korea, Andy Marte. He was also killed in another separate vehicle accident.
Separate traffic accident in the same day. I mean, it's like, whoa. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine on Facebook. As a matter of fact, my godfather at Comfortably Zoned, he's Tony D'Angelo, and he does an Eastern talk show. And we were talking about what responsibility does the player union have to make sure these kids stay out of some trouble? They get some guidance, some counseling, some direct, hands-on stuff to keep young players with incredible wealth sometimes, oft times, as a matter of fact, because of the way things are. And think back to our, quote, maturity, unquote, when we were 20 years old. So put X number of dollars in our hands, we would have been hell on wheels, and these kids are too. So it's a big investment. The owners have to contribute something, and certainly the player union, as I see it, the player union is all about players literally accumulating wealth, but not necessarily health. They cover up P-tests.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Well,
No, you know what? Because both, I read all the time. I should, particularly around spring training, how, and instructional league, how both the clubs, the clubs always have people come in, Major League Baseball sends people in, they're always counseling. They're aware of this. As a matter of fact, I think the NFL and the NBA does it as well. But listen, they are, these ball players are legal grown men, and unfortunately, you can't assign a babysitter to them. You can't put a tail on them. And it's quite unfortunate. And I'll be honest with you, I did not even read. I did, because it's like to the point, like after what happened with Jose Fernandez, you know what? I didn't even read what the circumstances were surrounding the event.
Yeah.
I didn't even. I tell you, I didn't even read the circumstances, whether or not they suspect alcohol or anything, because you know what? At that point, it's moot. It's just mooted, And
it's just a tragedy, is all.
But you can't. I'm sorry, you can't put this on the Players Union. You can't put it on Major League Baseball. They're aware of these things. All the major leagues, NBA and NFL as well. They do their very best to make these players aware of, to advise them on life matters as well as financial matters. And like anything else, you can only do so much. Listen, my parents were great examples. They raised me right. Listen, I was hell on wheels, till the age of 36. I didn't get it until I was much older. So, you can't put it on my parents. It's the same thing, it's the same thing here.
Yeah, but you can put a certain goodness about you on your parents. You have a right or wrong. You know what right from wrong, and
of course,
put that on your parents.
But what I'm saying is, though, I can't stick the negatives. All the the stupid things I did. I can't stick that on my parents.
No, of course not.
So,
what you can stick is your ability to come back from that on something that they've instilled in you.
Well, but what I'm saying is you can't stick what happened on Major League Baseball either. They didn't say, "Hey, here's your money, go out and have a great time." I'm sure that these players all, and nowadays particularly, with the and like you say, they have huge investments. The steps are taken, particularly with foreign players, to help acclimate them they understand the barriers and the language
These kids
and
were
cultural
both
barriers.
back in their own country too. So, and who's to say? Hey, listen, you took Mason Williams as your position player, Mason Williams, and I took Jake Cave. Now, Mason Williams is 22, Jake Cave was 23. But I think Jake Cave is the scrapper we talked about. And tell me about Mason Williams, what impresses you about him, and what doesn't.
I did.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Right. Tell me about your pitcher then.
Well, why don't you tell us about Jake Cade first?
Okay, I will. He is indeed a scrapper, and he's got a look on his face. They have pictures of everybody. We talked about that off air a little bit. He has got that scrapping look. What can I tell you? He's an outfielder, left-handed hitting outfielder, and he's big. 6'2", to me, is a big guy. Not necessarily tall, but he's a Willie size, compact power, and that stuff tends to develop later on in life. But in the meantime, he's been in the minors with a 268 batting average, and like I say, a scrapper, solid speed, and I'm rooting for him. Part of what I'm doing, what we're playing here, is rooting. I wasn't going to root for the other guy with the Mason name, Mason Williams, please. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Tell me about your pitcher.
Okay.
I'll talk about Drew Finley.
Chad Green. Well, in the minors, he was lights out. Okay? And by the way, he was one of the two pitchers the Yankees acquired from Detroit when they traded Justin Wilson. And even I was like, why are you trading Justin Wilson? But you know what? I actually like both pitchers they got back. I happen to like Luis Cessa as well. He just needs to stop giving up so many home runs, but all his other numbers are really good. He's got great stuff and good control. But anyway, getting back to Green, I mean, Green was absolutely dominating in the minor leagues, and he got rocked around a bit in the majors, but he did show glimpses. He had games where where he was on, where he was starting to get it. So
It's a big step.
Actually,
I'm
surprised.
The majors.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know what? For his first taste of the majors, it's not like he was terrible. Okay, we've seen a lot of pitchers come up and do a lot worse than 45 innings, 49 hits, 15 walks, 52 strikeouts. He too was tagged with the long ball, but he gave up 12 home runs. So, and you know what? Considering he gave up 12 home runs, his ERA was 4.73, and he gave those 12 home runs up in 45 innings. Not terrible, but I'm actually surprised that he was ranked 20th. I thought he would have been ranked higher. But then again, I also wonder, like, he's right on the cusp. He had 45 major league innings. I wonder, I guess that maybe that cutoff is 50 innings. I don't know. So, but he's got the stuff, and he was a top starter in college too. It's not like he played with Louisville. He was their best starter
in the World Series in 2013. So he's got some clutch game experience, which is very important to see how a guy's going to do with that adrenaline going and when the game really means something. And
it wouldn't shock me to see him in the rotation this year. I don't know if he'll break camp, but it wouldn't shock me to see him in the Yankees rotation at least half of the year, at least, and finish in the year in the Yankee rotation. So let's talk about your pitcher.
Again, Mr. Finley, Drew Finley, is the son of David Finley, who was a scout with the A's and is now head of international scouting for the Dodgers. And when I say a pedigree, it doesn't say anything about Finley Sr.'s baseball experience, this, that, and the other thing, but being around the game. From what I hear from listening to Tom Haller's kid, who's my partner on the Giants past, present, future, show that I do on this network, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Tim was a minor league player, tragically hurt on his way up to the majors, hit in the face, lost vision in his left eye, and never did make the majors, but spent literally his childhood in a Giant locker room and then played in high school and drafted very high. I mean, his life was baseball, and a lot of it had to do, according to him, was just he and the players that the kids that he grew up with, sons of major. You see more and more sons of major league players playing in the big leagues because you have a sense that you don't have to be afraid. You know what it's like all the way through. And this kid's been around the game of baseball, and his dad's a scout, which means that, and he was drafted in the third round, so it's not like he's that much of a long shot. I place a lot of faith in that the kid's going to develop for that reason, if no other reason, all things considered. His whip is like 1.1, was in Staten Island. 20 strikeouts in 27 innings with 9 walks. At that level, impresses me a lot. So that's why I picked him, and I think it'll be fun for us to follow those guys and see how they do. Tough, excuse me, tough to make a fair game out of this, but let's just see.
Okay. One thing about players that grew up around the game, it's not only so much. I don't know if it's so much the pedigree. I mean, I would think you'll inherit something if your mother or father was a world-class athlete. I think you'll inherit something there. But the other thing is, like, you take a guy like Finley. Now, I'm sure his father was around the game of baseball, but the other advantage that players who come up, who grew up around the game of baseball is they usually have the best training and development tools available to them. They probably have had the best instruction along the way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I think that probably goes a long way as well.
Right. Well,
you still need talent, though. You still need talent.
You still need talent, and Timmy had that, but he talks about taking infield with Joe Morgan and Dwayne Kuiper and hanging with Willie, both of them in the clubhouse, and just if you're at ease with the game itself, the genes notwithstanding, you're going to be better off. Again, I might be reaching something for something with this kid. But if he's been around the game, it has to be a plus. That's all.
Well, and the other thing is he was drafted in the third round. And,
right.
You know what? Yes, we have sleepers, we have long shots, but these studies have been done. And generally, you know what? The higher the round, the better the chance of being a major leaguer. And that's just the way it is.
Oh, yes. That's why,
Yeah.
to make it more fun for us, pick the guys that are in the lower half of the very, very subjective ranking, as we've seen over the years, of who's going to make it. And a lot of it is tools. Baseball America has an issue each year that I really loved when I was following the minors really closely, and that was the 5-tool players. And you don't see many of those, but oftentimes those 5 tools don't match the 6-tool, which is the head. And if you went to the majors, you could think of a guy like Puig now with the Dodgers. An incredible underachiever, given the talent that he came blessed with from Cuba. But that in itself, the transition to a different country, the language, the cultures, all of it is so trying on a player coming from another country. So that's why it's difficult for these scouts.
Well, to be fair, okay, Puig's been injured for the past 2 years, and anytime anytime he became healthy, he showed the spurts, but he just keeps re-aggravating. It's been like 2 years in a row. It's been a hamstring 2 years in a row.
Hamstring, yeah. Sometimes those things never really get fully better. And sometimes I was just thinking of Kirk Gibson limping to the plate with a hammy, and did not stop him. I think it was Bob Welsh, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been Stewart, but wasn't me that day. Anything
so,
that you...
Well, you know what? Listen, while we're going to get off the Yankees. This is a little off it, but while we're on the subject of tools, okay, I'm just going to run through this little list, okay? This is from August 10th, 2016. So, best batting prospect. Now, wait, let me just see. Major League rookies. Okay, so the best batting prospect they have is in 2000, where they had Corey Seager. The best batting prospect then, back in 2006, was Jay Bruce. The best power prospect now, and I'm assuming this was early in the year, was Joe Gallo. Back in 2008, it was Giancarlo Stanton. Fastest base runner they have now is George Mateo in the Yankee system. 2011, they list Billy Hamilton. They have best pitching
Hamilton's
prospect.
Fast as hell.
Oh yeah. Now I'm just listen. This is best tools winner. Okay, so best pitching prospect they had Tyler Glasnow in the Pirates system. In 2008, it was Madison Bumgarner. Best fastball now is Alex Reyes of the Cardinal system. In 2013, it was Thor, Noah Syndergaard.
Wow.
Best defensive catcher now is Austin Hedges. He's in the Padres system. Now, and in 2011, it was Christian Vasquez. I'm sorry, Vasquez and Hedges. They consider them, they're both for now. 2012, it was JT Realmuto with the Marlins. The best defensive shortstop. You're going to like this. Now, Ahmad Rosario.
Whoa, nice.
Okay?
Nice.
And they're going back like...
They keep their prospects. They didn't do much, the Mets. They kept their prospects. They re-signed. You had to re-sign Cespedes. There was no question about that. And you know what? I thought of something today. Why can't, because in the old days, Bruce would be down in instructional league learning how to play first base. Because let's face it, 30 homers is 30 homers. You can't just
well,
get
you know what?
You had
the thing is it's like, why isn't he down in the instructional league? We don't know if the Mets asked him. If the Mets did ask him, we don't know if he said yes. Okay, they can't force him. They can't say, we want you to go to the instructional league. Now,
what a good deal for everybody. Look at all the power. You got Granderson's another 30 home run guy. Not that he's going to do it again, but he's got Lagares to relieve him a little in center field. And that young pitching staff, so weak at catcher, D'Arnaud is horrible. But it's a Yankee show. Close it out by giving me some insight as to what your thoughts are for this coming year. Just what your expectations are. You're very objective. You're one of the few people who can be objective about their own team. And
my expectations are not high. And I hope the front office has the same expectations. I mean, they talk a good game, but I hope their expectations are not high. I hope they'll, I hope they'll let the young players go through their growing pains, but they still got some talent there where, I think we're looking at like a 500 team. And when I say 500, they can be 79 and 83. They can be 83 and 79. Okay. I would be pleasantly surprised if they contended for the wild card. They just need too many things to break their way.
Okay.
They really do. But you know what? It's okay. Don't get frustrated if Aaron Judge strikes out 200 times. Let him keep going to the plate. Didi Gregorius, and they were just one of the sites wrote something about him today.
Ball player. You said in a recent conversation, I think it was the New Year's show, you didn't expect Ellsbury because you can't regain speed, but you didn't expect much from Ellsbury.
Yeah, but it's not because he lost speed. He still has some good speed. He's still got plus speed. He hasn't really lost it yet. He just is, he's always hurt. And I think he's been playing, except for like an early stretch in 2015 where he was healthy and he was like on fire. I think he's been playing nicked up, pretty much ever since he's gotten to the Yankees.
Yeah.
But he still has his speed, and he's still a very aggressive base stealer.
Maybe some off-season conditioning if it's a hamstring. Maybe some guys have a metamorphosis late in their career that they have to take better care of themselves. I liked him when he was with the Red Sox as a player.
I don't think it's a matter of taking care of himself. It's just, sometimes, because he was injured quite a bit with the Red Sox as well.
Yeah, And one injury leads to another. You compensate for, say, a left hip on a right ankle, and then hurt the right ankle. So,
but I'll tell you the player who we might see this year, who I'm excited about. I mean, I'm excited about a lot of players in their farm system, but the one player who I think we might see this year, and maybe half the year, is Clint Frazier.
okay.
I'm high on Clint Frazier. So,
nice. Hey,
I'm high on a lot of guys in that system, but he's a guy we'll see. Thank you, Ralph. Always a pleasure.
This was fun as usual, and reminiscent of our old days when we shared this very microphone for New York City Baseball. And I've split it up a little bit, and I hope you'll come back during the season, and we'll catch up on everything on a regular basis.
Okay. Ralph, thank you again. Good night, everybody, and we'll be back again
I'll
sometime.
end it the same way I do. Just tell everybody to keep on keeping on. That's how life is. And we'll catch you next week, everybody. Be well. Adios, Wayne.
Good night, Ralph.